Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spaniard Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's toughest lifelong learner. I'm just trying it out, seeing which sounds better. My hair is getting to a point where we gotta start paying attention to it because it's starting to get a little bit out of whack. So we're here to record this week's What I Learned. Actually, last week's What I gotta stop doing this. I gotta stop recording what I learned on the next week. I gotta make a point of hi Sam, I am Pal Ham. I'm doing well, my friend. I can make a point of getting this done on Friday afternoons. So I'm about to jump into what I learned this week, and yeah, that's about it. In a little bit here, probably about noon-ish or so, I'm going to be recording AMX Kids 5. So I will be recording AMX Kids 5, and here's the deal for any of you who are watching who may or may not have kids and who may or may not want their kids to be exposed to AMX Kids. AMX Kids is all about teaching life lessons through books. AMX is about teaching life lessons through books. AMX Kids is directed to kids. That simple. AMX is directed to adults. But I'm going to be live streaming it from my YouTube channel. So I've been told by several different parents, that you should get on YouTube. You should get on YouTube. My kids are on YouTube. So I figure there's not many kids here on Facebook. Kids, I'm talking about middle school kids. So I figure I'm going to, just try it out on YouTube. So YouTube, it's the same deal. Charlie Spaniard is my name. Pretty much any social media there is, just search Charlie Spaniard, and that'll direct you in the right way. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start. Again, this is what I learned this week. One, two, three. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of What I Learned This Week. I gotta stop doing this. I'm recording on the next week. So really, this is what I learned last week. I ought to just save that little audio snippet so I can put it in there every time I do this. But I will tell you this. I am going to make a concerted effort. I am making a concerted effort to record these and get them out on Saturday. So it's kind of an encapsulation or a true summary of that week's learning. And I don't have to give that little disclaimer. So the last few weeks have been really awesome. I traveled down to, or I guess the last week and a half, 2 weeks have been really awesome. I traveled down to the Onnit gym, the Onnit headquarters in Austin, Texas. I got to spend a few days with my friend tour, Kyle Kingsbury. Kyle was a UFC fighter. Kyle is very smart, very well read, very well spoken, and it's always a treat being around him. He's super into health, fitness, wellness, spirituality, training, just an overall asset to my life. So it was awesome to spend time with him. I got to spend some time with Aubrey Marcus too, who is the head honcho at Onnit. I was also down in Ocean City, Maryland, so that was pretty awesome. But the work doesn't stop, and the work's not really work because I'm just obsessed with this idea of learning. If you all, what I'm about to record right now is the What I Learned This Week episode. Here in front of me I have a PDF. It's a one-page PDF. It's got 7 bullet points of my favorite, my hand-selected learning points from the week. You can get this guide at charliespaniard.com. So I encourage you to all hop on over there and use this for conversation. At the end of the day, it's simply about conversation. It's about talking. It's about expressing what's in your mind. You know, the limitations, the challenges, the thoughts, even the contradictions, the hypocrisies that you see in yourself. Getting them out, figuring them out. And in the spirit of the Native Americans, which I'm reading and learning about, is getting to this common and pure truth, right? This idea of purity. So I finished a book last week, Stephen King on writing, and I dove into another book this week called Awakening Spirits, which we'll talk about next week's What I Learned. But I'm going to wrap up with Stephen King's on writing, and I want to throw this out there. This book, I first heard Joe Rogan talk about it on his podcast, and he said what a tremendous book it was. I feel safe to say I never want to be absolute in the things I say. I learned from my jiu-jitsu coach that there are no absolutes. So I don't want to say every one of us has heard of Stephen King, but the majority of us listening have heard of Stephen King. We've heard or seen the movie It. We've heard or seen the movie, read the book Pet Sematary. It's mainstays. Misery. These are mainstays in our culture, in our society. So I feel like it's he's commonly known amongst the masses. But this book is part autobiography, but it's also the craft of writing, and that's especially where I found it interesting, because I love reading autobiographies and biographies of successful people, because I love knowing how they got from point A to point B, because I want to get from point A to point B. That's the whole basis of this learning stuff, is getting from point A to point B. We got to figure out how other people did it and moving on from there. Case in point, today I'm about to release AMX Kids 5, a kids podcast. I had been toiling with this idea for a while, and then I saw Jocko Willing put out a kids podcast, and I thought, you know what? He's doing it. It's working. I'm going to do it too. So that's exactly, if I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Isaac Newton said that's it. People, look around you. What's working for other people, and then make it your own and do it. At the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. So reading this book on Stephen King, on how he wrote, I took so many valuable things from that book. If you're sitting there thinking, I want to write a book, but I can't write a book, well, guess what? You can write a book. You just got to write. That's it right there. So I'm going to start with this week's What I Learned This Week. Again, get this PDF at charliespaniard.com. Opt into the email list sent to you at the end of every week. So the first thing, so Stephen King said this on his early days of writing, and this is to give you perspective. This is to let you know that, hey, it really takes a lot to get from point A to point B. On the early days of his writing, he said, quote, I think we had a lot of happiness in those days, but we were scared a lot too. He's referring to he and his wife Tabby and their young family. We had a lot of happiness in those days, but we were scared a lot too. It ain't easy, folks. There's a cost to greatness. There's a cost to success. I read in a book, it might have been a Napoleon Hill book. Napoleon Hill is on the air. I'm not sure exactly which one it was, but it said like there's a price to pay for success, but the price is always negotiable. It's up to you how much you want to put in, but understand how much you put in is directly correlated to how much you get out. So Stephen King saying we had a lot of happiness in those days, but we were scared a lot too. He knew what he wanted. Tying into the Native American theme that I'm learning about this week is this idea of a vision quest. He knew his quest. My quest is to be a writer. I'm a writer. That's what I'm going to do. There was a lot of happiness, but they were also scared a lot. And if you ask successful people, this doesn't have to be a hands-off reading in a book, famous people that we can't actually communicate with. Look at someone in your circle, in your neighborhood, someone at your school, or someone in your town, or whomever it is, your doctor, your dentist, whatever it is. Find someone who you deem as successful and ask them about it. Say, hey, what was it like getting started? What was it like in the beginning? What was it like before you were midway? What was it? Ask them, because it gives you perspective, and it lets you know that there is a cost to greatness, and it does take time. Another thing that King said, moving on to the second bullet point, another thing that King said, which this was one of my favorite things to take from the book, and that's why I included it in this week's What I Learned. He says, frightened determination is what caused him to get sober. So he had a drinking problem. And at one point, his wife gave him an ultimatum. You get clean or you get out, one or the other. And he said it was frightened determination that put him over the edge. Think of that phrase, frightened determination. What frightens you so much that it makes you determined? What frightens you so much that it spurns you to work hard? For me, fighting scares the heck out of me. It's not something that stopped scaring the heck out of me. It scares the heck out of me. But that fear drove me to a level of preparation I had never experienced prior. That's frightened determination. Look, if you're on social media, if you're into MMA, if you've seen the pictures and videos of Rumble Johnson posted, he's a big dude. But I'll tell you what, frightened determination will get you to train your arse off so hard that you can actually truly believe, I can beat that man. I can beat that man in a fight. Now, history tells us, didn't quite work out that way, but it's the belief that truly matters, because without that belief, it ain't going to happen. So lean into that fear, lean into that fright, and allow it to make you determined. Moving on, I was just talking about AMX Kids, and that's my kids podcast. AMX is about teaching life lessons through books. I am merely the conduit of these lessons. I read the books, I extract, decipher the lessons that ultimately I want my kids to hear. I want my kids to follow. So I say them, but it's out there for everyone to take and receive and to do that with them what you want to do. AMX Kids is about teaching life lessons through books. Last week at AMX Kids 4, I wrapped up with Hatchet. Hatchet is a story about survival. It's a story about accountability and responsibility. It's a story about overcoming fear and adversity. It's a really incredible story, and it's there for the taking. It's a very easy read. I was just talking to Dredd yesterday, because today I'm going to release AMX Kids 5. And I said, Dredd, what do you think about AMX Kids? How can we make it better? You know, what are your thoughts on it? So we had a discussion, a very honest and pure and direct conversation. And he said, what's your motive here? Why are you doing it? Why are you doing AMX Kids? And I said to him, and I'm saying to you, listener, right now, and how I hope you utilize this, when I deliver AMX Kids, I'm delivering it in a way that a young person can listen to it by themselves, and or a young person can listen to it in a classroom with their teacher / in a room with their parents or a mentor. So I want AMX Kids to serve as a platform for discussion. And back to why do I do it? I remember as a kid, as a junior high kid, the crazy, intense world of junior highness, feeling so alone, feeling so confused, feeling of loneliness and solidarity that I just thought, like, you know, you get that support from, if you're fortunate, from your friends, from your family, from your teachers, from your coaches, etc. So I just want to put out there another tool that if you're a kid and if you're feeling alone, that these words coming from these books, lessons coming from these books can help you stay on the right path, can help you do the right thing, can help develop your character skills. So that's exactly why I'm doing it, and that's exactly my vision for how I hope it's used. And I've been getting comments and feedback, only a few, but saying, hey, I listened to this. Hey, my kid loved it. Hey, this is great. When's the next one coming out? So I know, going back to what I learned from Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, and from what I read about Lady Gaga, right? It might only be 1 or 2% of the people out there, but they are telling me it's working. So doggone it, I'm going to keep on going. Moving on to the next bullet point. This was a quote. I love, I quote a lot. You know, I quote a lot from books. I quote a lot from interviews, etc. And I love the fact, it's an odd thing to say, but I love the fact that I could be interpreting it completely wrong, right? I have my interpretation of it, what I think, or what it makes me feel, or what I say about it, with complete awareness that I could totally be off here. So I say that leading into this next bullet point. So King says, quote, life isn't a support system for art. It's the other way around. So life is not a support system for art. Rather, art is a support system for life. So art is a support system for life. I see King as saying that art helped him make sense of or utilize his life experiences. So art is a support system for life. So we have life going on, and art being that support system is his way of making sense, utilizing, putting into manifesting his life. So that was a really neat, interesting quote. And if you read the book, again, Stephen King on writing, if you read the book, you're going to see what he's talking about. He has all of these experiences, and it's so neat in the book that he dives in, he explains where misery came from, why the characters are a certain way, where Carrie came from, how Pet Sematary evolved. It's just a really neat, how it, right, where it came from. He does a great job of explaining that, but that's how I see it. Life isn't a support system for art. It's the other way around. Have you ever wanted to do something? Have you ever wanted to do something and you do it? And when you do it, you think, wow, that was awesome. I feel good. Now let's think about the converse. Have you ever wanted to do something and you just don't do it? And you don't feel good? Sitting behind me, I have a whole pile of receipts that I got to do, and I haven't done them. And it's making me not feel very good. So the point, or the idea that I'm alluding to here, is this idea of a professional and amateur. Have you ever heard, like, he or she's amateur? They're amateur. That's amateur. Maybe it's a program, maybe it's a concert, maybe it's a product. That's amateur. It's not getting the job done. They're not doing it. Or he's a pro. She's a pro, man. She is a pro. You know, look at her do that. The way she works, the dedication. That's the difference between amateur and professional, right? When you're a pro, you get things done. You do them with the utmost quality, with the utmost hard work. When you're an amateur, you don't do them. I'm being an amateur. Look at those receipts right there. I'm an amateur. I ain't getting the job done. So in the book, and I want to throw this out there. I'm going to throw it in the context of Stephen King's writing, of Stephen King's, book, Stephen King on Writing. But I'm also going to throw it out there on AMX. So I am like you in that I am receiving the messages and the lessons from these books. Like I said, I'm a conduit of them. So I'm not sitting from a throne of, aha, I've perfected it and here you go. No, I'm sitting from a throne saying, hey, I'm learning. These are the things I'm striving for. They're here for you. If you want to strive for them too. But what I'm going to say, what Stephen King actually said, but just pretend it's my voice saying it as well, which technically it is my voice. King says this, and he's referring to writing. If you can take it seriously, we can do business. If you can't or won't, it's time for you to close the book and do something else. Ain't that the truth on anything in life? If you can take it seriously, we can do business. If you can't or won't, it's time for you to close the book and do something else. If you are a person who's in the public eye or who has done something that other people think is interesting, cool, they want to do it, etc., you get a lot of inquiries of people saying, hey, I want to do this thing. What do you think? And the response, in my mind, I'm thinking, if you can take it seriously, we can do business. If you can't or won't, it's time for you to close the book, literally or figuratively, and do something else. If you can take it seriously, we can do business. AMX, the reason I believe in AMX so much is because it's guiding me. And I'm taking it seriously. And it's there for you as well, to take it and take it seriously. But if you're not going to take it seriously, it's time to close the book and move on to something else. It's time to look yourself in the mirror and say, I ain't taking it seriously. I'm not going to take it seriously. I'm merely putting up a facade to myself, to my face, in front of myself only, and I'm faking it. I'm not taking it seriously. So you got to ask yourself, am I going to take it seriously? Am I going to change? And am I ready to do business? Moving on to that. Speaking of taking it seriously and being a professional and doing business the proper way, Shawn Stevenson, Google him. Shawn Stevenson. Google the book, Sleep Smarter. It's a wonderful book. I read it. If you're like myself and you could go for a little bit feeling better, having more energy to train, having more energy to raise your 4.5 and 1.5-year-old, having more energy to create awesome content, having more energy to be vibrant and zealous with the people in your life. I think I'm using that correctly. Zealous in a good way is energy and enthusiasm. Shawn Stevenson is someone you want to familiarize yourself with. This is episode number 187 on my podcast, Fitness. I just thought of a line from a Sublime song that I used to sing back in the day in a real tough way. But I'm not going to sing it because it is inappropriate. So Shawn Stevenson in our conversation says this, quote, so Shawn Stevenson is a fitness, nutrition, and sleep expert, guru, person who knows a lot about those subjects. He says, quote, fitness is not just one thing. Health is not just one thing. It's your environment. It's your relationships. It's your sense of a spiritual connection of some sort. Having a practice of meditation or being able to unplug, immersing yourself in goodness and being able to create a really great life. So as I'm saying that, I'm reaching to my desk beside me and I'm grabbing a book. And the book is called Unplugged, Evolve from Technology to Upgrade Your Fitness, Performance, and Consciousness by Brian McKenzie, Dr. Andy Galpin, and Phil White. All of these things, it's really neat to see this connection. I didn't know that I would grab that book when I sat down to read it. But as I mentioned Kyle, and I mentioned On It, and I mentioned Shawn Stevenson, and now I mentioned the book Unplugged, and Kyle always talks about Dr. Andy Galpin. So these are really smart people talking about common themes in our lives. So the information is there. Go back to the root of this show, learning. To get from point A to point B, yes, I want to feel better. I want to have more energy. I want to eat healthier, etc. So I'm learning to do those things. And you too can learn to do those things, but you've got to ask yourself, am I going to take it seriously? Can I really do business, or am I just going to talk? Talked about the spiritual connection, how this is all, how my learnings are connected. I just read The Wisdom of the Native Americans. I'm now reading Awakening Spirits. They talk about this idea of spirituality. Does it sound foo-foo and does it sound weird? At one time, I would have said, yeah, that sounds weird. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to eat a hoagie. I got to train to fight. But now it's like, whoa, there's more to it than just eating hoagies and training and fighting. There's this thing called spirituality. Google it. Read about it. Learn about the Native Americans. Learn about their stoicism. Learn about the history of the country that we live in. Most of us that are listening live in. It's so invigoratingly energetic, and it's all there for the taking. And lastly, I'm going to send you this small quote and perhaps a first action to moving toward that openness of learning and understanding and comprehension. King says this, quote, "Writing is refined thinking." Writing is refined thinking. I have at my handy I'm thinking consistent, 3 journals, 3 notebooks that I write in on a daily/weekly basis. A couple of them are daily, one of them is weekly. Writing is refined thinking. What do you think about spirituality? What do you think about wellness? What do you think about training? When you're asked these questions, words come out of your mouth. Okay? I would think we want those words to be pure and true and well spoken, impeccable, if we want to go back to some of the major themes of success. You got to speak with impeccability, be impeccable with your word. Both Canfield and Success Principles and Don Miguel Ruiz in 4 Agreements speak of that idea. Bear Grylls also speaks of that. Writing is refined thinking. So to speak impeccably, prior, thought, word. What if you went thought, writing, word? That helps your speech become more impeccable. That helps you speak pure and truer and more well thought out. So writing is refined thinking. You can start today, write about anything. That's one of the things that I picked up in King's book, is write about anything. It doesn't matter. You heard something from the show that you liked or made you go, you know, things that make you go, then write it down. Write about it. Talk to a friend about it. Refine your thinking. This has been another episode of What I Learned This Week. I sincerely appreciate you tagging along, listening to what I'm learning. It invigorates me more than anything to learn and teach and share and have you say, hey, I really like that. So if you're out there, if you really enjoy it, feel free to tag me on social media at Charlie Spaniard. Hop on over to charliespaniard.com where you can opt in to receive this What I Learned document every week, as well as check out my speaking programs. I don't want to just sit behind a mic and talk and teach. I want to stand on stage. I want to interact. I want to fist bump you. I want to shake hands with you. I want to get you laughing. I want to get you moving. I want to get you training, actually moving, training. These few sessions that I've done where I talk and exercise, train at the same time, they're intense. They're unique. They're fun. They're crazily, they're peculiar. They're interesting. There's something to be seen and something to be experienced. All that can be found at charliespaniard.com. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. Search out Spaniard. Be bold, my friends. That's fun. That's just fun. This is just fun. There we go. All right, folks. I have an interview. All right, anywho, I have an interview I got to do here at 10. Please subscribe on iTunes. Search out Spaniard. Click subscribe. And like I said, I'm going to be going live here on YouTube. YouTube.com/Charlie Spaniard here in a little bit. If you want to follow along live with AMX Kids. If you have kids, get them listening. Please get them listening. And then start talking to them. Open up that line of communication. That was, I'm going to say the most. I'd have to think about it a little bit. One of the most important things between my parents and I was this line of communication. There was no bridge that was not crossed. It did get awkward sometimes, but it led to a very, very good relationship. Start talking, be bold. See ya.